Hi, welcome back for our fifth story of December. Today's might be a little sad, but it's also filled with hope. It's the true story of pain and hope behind I Heard the Bells on Christmas Day. In March of 1863, 18-year-old Charles Appleton Longfellow left his family's house on Brattle Street in Cambridge, Massachusetts, a colonial mansion that had served as General Washington's headquarters from 1775 to 1776. Unbeknownst to his family, he boarded a train bound for Washington, D.C., traveling over 400 miles down the eastern seaboard in order to join President Lincoln's Union Army to fight in the Civil War. Charles was the oldest of six children born to Fanny Elizabeth Appleton and Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, the celebrated literary critic and poet. Charles had five younger siblings, a brother aged 17 and four sisters, ages 13, 10, 8, and one who had died as an infant. Less than 2 years earlier, Charles' mother, Fanny, had tragically died after her dress caught on fire. Her husband, Henry, awakened from a nap, tried to extinguish the flames as best he could, first with a rug and then his own body, but she had already suffered severe burns. She died the next morning, July 10, 1861, and Henry Longfellow's own burns were severe enough that he was unable even to attend his own wife's funeral. He stopped shaving on account of the burns, growing a beard that would become associated with his image. At times, he feared that he would be sent to an asylum on account of his grief. When Charlie, as he was called, arrived in Washington, D.C., he sought to enlist as a private with the 1st Massachusetts Artillery. Captain W. H. McCartney, commander of Battery A, wrote to Henry Wadsworth Longfellow for permission, written permission, for Charlie to become a soldier. H.W.L., as his son referred to him, granted the permission. Longfellow later wrote to his friends Charles Sumner, senator for Massachusetts, John Andrew, governor of Massachusetts, and Edward Dalton, medical inspector of the 6th Army Corps, to lobby for his son to become an officer. But Charlie had already impressed his fellow soldiers and superiors with his skills, and on March 27, 1863, he was commissioned as a second lieutenant in the 1st Massachusetts Cavalry, assigned to Company G. At the Battle of Chancellorsville in Virginia, April 30 to May 6 of 1863, he saw no combat duty but spent his time guarding wagons. Charlie fell ill with camp fever, probably typhoid or typhomalarial fever, and was sent home to recover for several months with his family. That summer, having missed the Battle of Gettysburg, he rejoined his unit on August 15, 1863. On the first day of that December, Henry Wadsworth Longfellow was dining alone at his home when a telegram arrived with the news that his son had been severely wounded, inaccurately stating that he had been shot in the face 4 days earlier. On November 27, 1863, while involved in a skirmish during a battle of the Mine Run campaign, Charlie had been shot through the left shoulder, with the bullet exiting under his right shoulder blade. It had traveled across his back and nicked his spine. Charlie avoided being paralyzed by less than an inch. He was carried into New Hope Church in Orange County, Virginia, and then transported to the Rapidan River. Charlie's father and younger brother Ernest immediately set out for Washington, D.C., arriving on December 3. Charlie arrived by train on December 5. Henry Wadsworth Longfellow was alarmed when informed by the army surgeon that his son's wound was very serious and that paralysis might ensue. 3 surgeons gave a more favorable report that evening, suggesting a recovery that would require him to be long in healing, at least 6 months. On Friday, December 25, 1863, Longfellow, as a 57-year-old widowed father of 6 children, the oldest of which had been nearly paralyzed as his country fought a war against itself, wrote a poem seeking to capture the dynamic and dissonance in his own heart and the world he observed around him that Christmas day. He heard the Christmas bells ringing in Cambridge and the singing of peace on earth. But he observed the world of injustice and violence that seemed to mock the truthfulness of this optimistic outlook. The theme of listening recurs throughout the poem, eventually leading to a settledness of confident hope, even in the midst of bleak despair, as he recounts to himself that God is alive and righteousness shall prevail. Within a decade, 1872, the poem was put to music by the English organist John Baptiste Calkin for a processional set to the melody Waltham. You can read the poem below and listen to a modern rendition of the carol. So I'm going to read the poem now. This is what he was feeling during this time of injustice and violence in their country, a time when his son was wounded, he had lost his wife, but yet he found that there was hope and that righteousness would prevail. And that's pretty neat because we all know that in the end of this world, righteousness will prevail. So the poem, and now the song, I heard the bells on Christmas Day. I heard the bells on Christmas Day, their old familiar carols play, and wild and sweet the words repeat of peace on earth, goodwill to men. And though how as the day had come, the belfries of all Christendom had rolled along the unbroken song of peace on earth, goodwill to men, till ringing, singing on its way, the world revolved from night to day. A voice, a chime, a chant sublime of peace on earth, goodwill to men. Then from each black, accursed mouth, the cannon thundered in the south, and with the sound the carols drowned of peace on earth, goodwill to men. It was as if an earthquake rent the hearthstones of a continent, and made forlorn the households born of peace on earth, goodwill to men. And in despair I bowed my head. There is no peace on earth, I said, for hate is strong and mocks the song of peace on earth, goodwill to men. Then pealed the bells more loud and deep. God is not dead, nor doth he sleep. The wrong shall fail, the right prevail, with peace on earth, goodwill to men. That is beautiful. I've never heard that story before, but it's really neat to hear and read the story behind this Christmas carol, because we know in the end righteousness will prevail, and we have hope in that today. I hope you have a good evening, and I'll see you tomorrow for another story.